It's a notorious stretch of road in Oklahoma known for its seedy crimes, including prostitution, pimping, pandering, and even human trafficking. Take a look at this evidence room. It's filled with illegal drugs like marijuana, meth, and even cocaine. All of it taken off the streets of Oklahoma. And while criminals sell it for profit, in the sex trafficking industry, it's often used as leverage for manipulation. OBN's Human Trafficking Division was first assembled in 2012 here at the agency's headquarters in Oklahoma City. Here, 7 agents assigned to the division have often worked alongside multiple surrounding agencies. Together, they've helped make hundreds of arrests, putting pimps and johns behind bars. Despite high winds and thick brush, firefighters say only about 15 acres burned thanks to their quick response. Again, fire officials have confirmed at least 7 homes have been destroyed in the Mountain Village Estates neighborhood. It's a cruel disease that robs you of your memories and then your body bit by bit. Alzheimer's. Currently, more than 5 million Americans are living with the disease, and every 67 seconds, someone in the U.S. develops Alzheimer's. In the blink of an eye, it could happen to you. After getting patted down, suited up, and briefed by instructors,
it will be up to me to decide whether I am going to draw my gun or not.
I walked into the unknown. In this simulated exercise, I was walking to my car when I was ambushed.
Give me your keys right now.
In a panic, I fumbled for my gun, later realizing I'd made the wrong decision.
Index.
I don't know why I'm trying to pull my gun, because I would have given you my keys.
In this case, instructors told me my best chance of survival was to give the robber exactly what he wanted. They also told me I could have avoided the situation altogether had I been more aware of my surroundings.
It's a simple one of these.
360 degrees around us at all times.
Yeah, look, we got a knuckle there. We got a knuckle there.
You got battle scars.
You can see on my jeans right here where I got hit.
And while I only suffered some minor cuts and bruises in the scenario you're about to see,
I want to know where she's at.
in real life, I probably wouldn't have lived to talk about it. Here I was shot twice in my own apartment after a panicked woman came barreling through my front door with her armed boyfriend close behind. And while I was able to fire a shot off, I hesitated even when backed into a corner, something instructors say could have cost me my life.
Your money and nobody gets hurt.
Then in another exercise, I finally prevailed after a gunman demanded my money at an ATM machine, and I quickly complied. Instead of reaching for my gun, I opted to give him the money and run.
Nobody else managed to get out the door.
Yes!
And while I was able to walk away from these threatening scenarios each time, Badlands instructor Sean Strange says in real life, armed or not, survival is never a guarantee.
Just get the concealed carry is kind of like just getting your yellow belt in karate. You learn just enough to really get beat to death.
That's why training is imperative. While this gun is in fact a weapon, it's also a tool that's useless unless we know how it functions and how to operate it.
We used to push and pull.
Badlands instructor Richard Johnson has 28 years of law enforcement under his belt and discourages anyone from buying a gun only to forget about it.
From the technical aspect, shooting is a perishable skill. There are a lot of small motor functions. There's a lot of things that have to be done in the right sequence to shoot effectively and accurately. So we know as with any skill, those will degrade over time.
And I teach you, this is where that gun goes.
And while instructors encourage continued training both in the classroom and at the range, they hope the skills you hone are never employed unless deadly force is an absolute.
And that's the crux of the class, that there are most always other options. Of course, like we've talked about, we don't want to go too far the other way, that they're hesitant to use that firearm in their self-defense if they choose to. But there are always other things we need to look at. We don't want to make using that gun the only thing that's going to happen in any incident, because then you're locked into it.
Just because we wear a gun does not mean we have to use a gun. Is it worth me dying for? Somebody stealing my vehicle? Where is that line?
You see how it kind of spirals through that?
And when it comes to taking a life, even if it is justified, it's something Badlands founder and Tillman County Sheriff Bobby Whittington says isn't that easy to do. He says there's no true victor in bloodshed.
People have a difficulty in taking a human life, you know, and it'll bother them later on.
And while he says it's a decision that will haunt most people emotionally for the rest of their lives, the toll can be far greater.
And they can have lawsuits, they can be criminally charged or face charges, it can bring problems upon their family and their business and their associates. So most people don't realize that.
The number of Americans exercising their right to carry concealed weapons has exploded, from less than 1 million just a few decades ago to as many as 11 million today. And while there's evidence that gun prevalence can deter crime, that uptick in numbers also has its consequences.
We become complacent and negligent with a firearm. We have the potential of taking somebody else's life that we didn't mean to, that didn't need to have that taken against them.
They did put themselves in a situation, it was brought to them.
What would we do? And we have to start that thinking before that minute happens, that second that we can't back up. We need to have in our minds which way to go.
One by one,
I just feel that he's being done wrong.
supporters
I think Ronnie Smith is the finest chief of police we've ever had in Lawton.
came in by the droves throughout the day.
When they came to work this morning at 8 o'clock, there was already people waiting to get in to sign it.
Dr. Louis Reyna
When I read the article, I said, whoa, 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 whoa.
not only came to sign Smith's petition,
Thank you for starting.
Hey, I appreciate it.
but to also get copies to place in his own office.
After all these years of service, for one incident, even if there's a question as to how proper his behavior was in regards to this event, you just cannot throw away everything else that he has done and throw him out. I think that if there was any impropriety, that should be dealt with, but certainly not. I don't think it warrants the degree of punishment has been rendered upon him.
Hodges, Reyna, and other supporters hope the stack of signatures and Facebook page
And the name of the Facebook page is Bring Chief Ronnie Smith Back to Lawton.
will speak to the city.
If they are voted in by the city and by the citizens, I would think that they would have to take that into consideration.
I think they should take the whole man and his career as a whole and put this business at hand in perspective. It seems to me that it hasn't been.
I want to be part of getting him back on that police force.
After nearly 3 years in court, 2 mistrials, and a manhunt, jury members spent less than 4 hours determining the fate of Charles Dyer.
Guilty verdict.
Guilty.
And guilty is exactly what the mother of the little girl and grandparents said they had hoped for all along.
Closure, move on with our lives, and she don't ever have to get on the stand again, look at his face, talk about it, anything. She gets to be a little girl now.
We're just going to try to raise her as the little girl she is, the way she's supposed to be. She's a little tomboy. She's always been Papa's little girl, so it's always been really close to my heart,
But after 2 mistrials, it was a verdict that even Stevens County District Attorney Jason Hicks says he wasn't sure anyone would hear.
Well, you always feel nervous when your case is in front of a jury because you just don't know exactly what 12 people are going to do.
Stevens County Sheriff Wayne McKinney says he was also uncertain of how this trial would end, after he says Dyer often diverted the focus of the trial.
His position was that everyone was, that the federal government had this conspiracy because he was a part of a militia. My department was after him for whatever reason. That law enforcement in general, the district attorney's office was after him. We didn't just pick Charles Dyer out of all the people that live in Stevens County and decide to file charges on him. This came from a report of a sexual abuse to a small child. When it was investigated, the evidence was pointing to him, and he was arrested for it, and now he's had his day in court.
Even though a guilty verdict was something several people hoped to hear, others, including Dyer, were left with little to say.
Charles, do you have any comment? Anything you want to say?
I was sitting in the front row when the verdict was read and looked at Dyer, and he had his head down, very, very passive.
And while family members and supporters of the victim say they are happy with the verdict, they say they also feel for the family of the person they hate most.
It's a heartbreak for the other family. Even though we believe he's guilty, it is a heartbreak for that family.
Yeah.
They've lost a son now.
Yeah.
And we're not here to gloat. That's not what that's about.
One by one, all of them in handcuffs. The suspects trekked in to be booked, and it was early before sunrise.
So a lot of them were still in their night clothes when we gave them the wake-up call this morning.
Needless to say, these guys weren't happy about their arrests or our cameras.
Hope you're having fun, man. News here too?
But Stevens County District Attorney Jason Hicks says these suspected drug dealers only have themselves to blame.
These arrests are not simple possession arrests. They are distribution arrests.
There was one surprise arrest, this man Stephen Gandy, a Duncan bail bondsman.
He was bonding out of jail were some of the very people that he was supplying the methamphetamine to.
And Hicks says that should come as no surprise to anyone.
You know, it runs the gamut from the top of the economic ladder all the way down to the bottom, and we've arrested everybody.
Though they may come from several different walks of life, officials say one thing today's arrestees have in common is the way they've been affected by drugs.
Yeah, I've seen people come through our jail that is on meth, and it's a heartbreaking sight to see what would be a beautiful lady that's on meth, what it's done to her body and doing to her life.
They'll fight with officers, they'll fight with others, they lose weight, they pretty much lose their mind.
Officials say they have no choice but to crack down on anyone caught using or selling drugs.
As soon as we get these folks off the streets, there will be more that take their place.
And they'll be ready.
Everybody can take notice that we're going to be out looking for them.
I have zero sympathy for them and zero tolerance for the drug problem that we see not only in our county but throughout the state of Oklahoma. It's a terrible epidemic right now.
Officials say this drug raid focused on the sale of methamphetamine, a drug that's had a resurgence in popularity in Oklahoma. For 7 News, I'm Sylvia Corkill.